So therefore, the people, the residents of this area, have been waiting the last couple of years to do something about it. You know, in the last few years, the injection well, pumping chemical in the ground. Therefore, the people in this community very, very afraid to drink their water. Some people on low income, Social Security and what have you, buying water. Water is very expensive. So therefore, we're trying to find out what causes the problem here. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Duke King.
Thank you, Ed. How y'all doing? My name is Duke King, and I'm Vice President of All Chemical and Atomic Workers, Local 4620, here that represents chemical workers. I started listening and learning a little bit from people like Mary Lee, different environmental groups, started educating us. And that education led to a coalition between our local and the National Toxic Campaign. And that coalition was formed on a community basis down here right in Prairieville Firehouse. And we are real concerned about any kind of pollution inside the plant because that affects our lives. We're concerned about pollution outside the plant because that affects your lives and people that's our neighbors and our friends and our grandkids. We're also concerned, like I told you before, about the longevity of these chemical plants because they do provide some good jobs on the road. I think that the tide has turned. I think that only the companies that comply and stay within compliance with environmental laws are going to be around. I think they're going to be weeded out. The environmental laws are getting strict. Gatherings like this, communities staying together, uniting, that's what's going to cause it. We can pass all the laws in the world, but if the people don't stand behind the law, then they really don't mean a whole lot. And I guess my message to you here is from the OCAW members of 4620, that as long as we can financially, we're going to be here supporting the environmental groups and trying to help you in whatever endeavors you decide is best for you. Thank you.
Okay. The next person on the agenda is Miss Mary Lee Orr. She has done a splendid job looking around the state, trying to get these chemical plants to comply with the law. I'm not going to talk to them. Mary, come on.
Thank you for giving me the honor of speaking tonight. And I literally didn't know until 3 minutes ago that Tom put me on the agenda, so bear with me if I sort of ramble around. But I think tonight is very, very important. It's another historic occasion because we're seeing the unions and the environmentalists and the community work together. When I got involved in the movement, my son was born with a Lyme disease. And I really knew firsthand what it was like to see someone you love lose the ability to breathe. And then I was educated through Richard Miller and Daryl and Ramona and Grammy and Ed, all those wonderful folks to teach me that those chemicals that impacted my life were affecting the workers before they were affecting me. And that they were literally putting their life on the line for us. And we needed to join hands with them. And that together we could have an enormous power that the movement didn't have before. And I'm really proud that I've been able to partake in that in a small way. I wouldn't be doing my job though if I didn't tell you a little bit about LEAN. LEAN is a coalition of more than 65 member groups and individuals here in Louisiana fighting for environmental justice. What does that mean? That means that here in this parish we have AWARE and Ascension Parish Residents Against Toxics and individuals who are trying to take back their various civil rights. Because don't you feel like they've been violated? I mean, I used to take clean air, clean water, and clean land for granted. I thought the government protected me. I thought someone was going to ride in on a white horse and save me. And I found out that wasn't so. And I've had the privilege of traveling around this state and this country and see ordinary people like myself. I'm an empowered housewife who's gotten involved. do extraordinary things and literally change the history of their parish and their state and then their nation. So the challenge for us tonight is for you, because this is your home and I'm a guest, and I will join hands and march and fight with you until I can't stand anymore. But it is your home, and we can't do it unless you stand there with us. And so I want to be here tonight to tell you the challenge is we have to speak out. Our power is numbers. It's not money, is it? We don't have the money. Some of us can't even afford the bottled water. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What's happened to us in our lives? Because what it really means is what is it doing to us, to our children, to our loved ones, whether we're in a factory and we feel like we can't even bring our clothes home to wash them, that we have rashes or we're hemorrhaging from our nose or we have cancer. But some way our life is affected in our health, and it's time that enough is enough. And I hope tonight is again a beginning where we can join hands and really see the power of the people. So I guess what I'm really here to say is that I support you, and if there's anything that Lean can do, please let me know, and I'm proud to stand with my union brothers and all my neighbors here in the community, and thank you for the privilege of being here tonight.
Thank you, Mary. I guess every time I see Mary, it makes me think of my wife who passed January 3rd, 1991. She was one of the victims that died there with cancer. And for the last 5 years, fighting that cancer really had causes a lot of turmoil and mixed emotion in the family. I can understand cancer in other areas of the state, percentage-wise. Something is wrong. It's a small community. Look like every 3 or 4 houses there's somebody with cancer. And however, I cannot tell you what caused it, what the reason, but I know something is wrong. Until you experience the heartache, the emotion of your loved one with this type of disease, is outrageous. That's real. I'm here tonight not fighting the chemical industry, but I know one thing, something is wrong. Population of less than 10,000 people, that many people die of cancer. Of course, you know, according to one study made, that is our food that we're eating. Of course, in the early 40s, the migration of black toward northern city and other part of the country, a lot of friends with me, those people didn't come down with cancer, so therefore I know something is wrong in this area. So therefore I'm trying to do something about it. I find myself with mixed emotion right now, however, but in 1957, the planes came in this area. 20 years later, we started finding the symptom of this type of disease, cancer. We have to do something. Of course, when it came, our executive branch of government did nothing. They didn't have no laws on the book. The state of Louisiana didn't have any laws on the book. So therefore, people was the victim of circumstance. Just just come down here and dump anything you want to dump. We were, at that time, I guess maybe at this present moment too, any place in the United States doesn't want any chemical in their state to bring it to Louisiana. This is the place to dump it. And right now, we have an effect from it. Okay, we go to the next guest, Mr. John.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me as your guest. My name is John O'Connor. I'm the founder of the National Toxics Campaign, which is a coalition of 1,500 groups across this country that's battling toxic pollution in our own backyards. I bring greetings from the organization and want to point out that anything we can do to help further your efforts, we'd be happy to pitch in. We have offices across the country, including Baton Rouge. I actually was amazed as I came into town this morning. I picked up the newspaper and I heard about some of the chemical industries asking for discharge permits to actually put more chemicals out into the environment. And the companies, of course, were saying it was safe. And it reminds me of growing up in a small town where I grew up in the Northeast called Stratford, Connecticut, where my family lived about 150 yards from the second largest asbestos production facility in the nation. We made brake linings and clutch linings and a host of other asbestos linings. And it was this particular corporation who knew since the 1930s that their asbestos was killing people. And of course, they didn't tell any of us. I think many of you know the story, but thousands of workers and community people have gone to the grave at a much earlier age than is expected because of this asbestos poisoning. I think the hardest part about growing up in my hometown was I actually believed what the company said. They said, don't worry about that asbestos, it's okay for you. You put on your cornflakes, you're gonna be all right. And they even built our Little League baseball diamond out of asbestos, right on top of an asbestos dump, when they knew the stuff could kill us. And I think one of the hardest moments in my life was to attend the funeral of the second baseman on our Little League team, on the Ray Besto's Little League team, who died from the type of cancer you're only supposed to get if you're exposed to asbestos. I think the hardest moment there was something that his mother said, and it hits home to me every day, something to the effect that she said, it's not supposed to happen this way. Mothers are not supposed to bury their children. And it was really after that experience that I made a vow, and I think you have by your presence here tonight, that we as a people are not going to sit by anymore and watch as innocent members of the public die unnecessary, horrible, and preventable deaths. I think that's the key. These problems are not a mystery. They can be solved. It's not a technical problem. We know how to reduce the air and the water pollution and clean up the toxic waste. It's really a people problem. Are we going to get enough people together to put pressure on some of these firms to do the right thing? And I think if you look around in your neighborhood, from what I know, we've got a lot of work to do. I think it can be done, of course, in a way that's good for the environment, but also good for the economy. We can have good, clean, safe jobs and good, clean, safe production facilities. But there's got to be some changes. You know, I was amazed. I picked up the State Times out of Baton Rouge this morning, and I couldn't believe this, but the title of the article is "Proposed Permit Would Have DEQE Allow BASF Higher Discharge Levels." We're supposed to be getting better at this, and here the corporation wants to put actually more benzene and ethyl dichloride into the river. So the company's engineer, Mr. George Smith, goes on to explain that even though they want to put more poisons into the river, that they said, quote, BASF's biological treatment processes utilizes the same natural process the Lord made in forests and rivers. Now, I mean, I couldn't believe it. Instead of changing the shop floor a little bit to reduce the poisons, they're going to just dump it out there and say that the Lord is taking care of this stuff. I mean, to me, clearly that's a company that needs to change their thinking. But it's interesting that even a company like that is a little better than many of the companies around here. And they're a little better because they have a union in it. If you look at study after study, the plants that have less pollution, less health and safety problems are the plants that have unions in them. And I think that's not a small point around here, because you do have other plants like Borden, Allied, Arcadian, Uniroyal, United Texans, and others that are non-union plants, and seem to have a lot more pollution than the other plants. And I only mention this union connection because so often, you know, if you're working at a job, you're told you're the enemy of the environmentalists. If you're the environmentalists, they tell you the workers don't care about the environment. And I just want to point out that I think a very special thing has happened in Louisiana that's really starting to take root all across the country, and that is people who work in these factories, people who live in the communities, people who are so-called environmentalists, are now understanding that they have a common interest, a common ground, a common future, and they're recognizing that we can solve these problems without putting people out of business. We can solve these problems in a way that are good for working people and good for folks who live in those communities. And, you know, I just want to mention 3 things that I think are very important that we found in our work. And it's going to come up again and again. There's going to be experts that will come out from some of these firms who will say, hey, don't worry, this stuff is great and the good Lord's going to take care of our pollution. But remember, friends, that science is for sale in this country. You know, science is for sale. It's like beef on the hoof. It goes to the highest bidder often. And, you know, there's lots of experts, but in a democracy, experts are supposed to be on tap, not on top. Experts are to be listened to, but you, the people, have got to decide what's right and wrong for your community, not the experts. That's what democracy is about. Secondly, remember that even though there's some good politicians, you know, over here at the State House and in the Congress, hey, we got the best politicians money could buy. Best politicians money could buy. These companies put a lot of money into purchasing our politicians. So remember that. And the third thing that we have found that I think is very important is you shouldn't have to pay for anybody else's mess, right? If a certain firm is responsible for a mess, they should contribute to the cleanup. You shouldn't have to pay for that. And in closing, I just want to say that, you know, one of the more important lessons I've learned, and I think it's important to think about, is something I learned from the Native American Indians a long time ago. And it was, they taught us that you got to live not as if just today matters, but as if the next several generations matter. And they taught us that we don't really inherit the land from our grandparents, but we're borrowing it from our grandchildren. And we owe it to our children and our children's children to leave this earth in much better shape than it is today. I think today we're starting something very important. We have a long road ahead, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the good work, and anything we can do to back you up, we're here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I've been saying this for a couple of years, the last 5 years. I think we enjoy the plant being here. There are a lot of benefit from the plants. However, at the same time, there are a lot of responsibility the plant must take. And I firmly believe that the plant technology of producing any something, any material, they got the technology to get rid of it, and I believe that. But the point is, I talked with 2 plant managers. He told me, he said, do you know how much that costs? I care less how much it costs. Think about it, you save some small children's life. It has no price on an individual life. So what are we saying? Now, right at this present moment, there are a few plants are doing a spinning job and putting money out there trying to clean up the environment. And those are here should get out. At this moment, if they don't make some kind of progress, get down here, we're going to help them out. This has been a quiet, good community, cooperating 100% with the plants, but we're not going to suffer anymore. It's just that simple. All you're going to clean up or get out. And we're not asking, we tell them right now. The next person will be another one.
Hello, my name is Donna Carrier. Each year, over 20 billion pounds of toxic chemicals are released into our environment. That's 4,000 pounds of toxic waste for every person in America. Many are either released into the air, burned in incinerators, dumped into rivers, or injected into deep wells, contaminating groundwater in thousands of communities all over our nation. Meanwhile, 750 million pounds of deadly pesticides are sprayed into America's farmland. And we have evidence of this here, as seen by the recent fish kills in our area, which they've attributed to this type of runoff. This pollution invades every aspect of our life: our food, our air, water, in our workplaces, in our schools, our whole community. You don't have to live next door to the Superfund dump site, and you don't have to drink severely contaminated water to be affected by pollution and contamination. It's a global crisis, and we're all potential victims. But the fact is, that all of us in this community do live with a Superfund project dump site in our backyard and in the backyard of this very elementary school where most of our children go to school. We all breathe the chemical emissions released into the air here. We kill and eat the game that lives in the woods surrounding a radioactive gypsum mound right off Highway 74. Catch and eat fish from ponds, lakes, and rivers thick with pollution. We're here today to support our rights as Americans, as Louisianians, as residents of this community. Our right to build a movement for environmental democracy, enabling average citizens like you and I of this community to participate in making decisions that affect the health and future of this community's residents, the health and future of our children. Most of you feel or have felt powerless in the past to affect real change here concerning these problems. But as Mary Lee said, we do have the power by sheer numbers to be a potent force for environmental change in our state, beginning in this community. This committee tonight has been formed by people from all sectors of the community, blue collars, professionals, with no regards to race or religious background. But we all have one common ground. We're all members and residents of this community. Many of us have children and loved ones. And we're determined that they have the opportunity to have breathable air and drinkable water in our lifetime, and also in theirs. We can't solve the problems of the world tonight, but we can, with your help and involvement, gather the power to effect real change in our community by making each resident an informed and environmentally aware citizen. We've had, I know for at least the past 2 years, a big Earth Day celebration in Baton Rouge, and they've affected some small community Earth Day celebrations in the Gonzales area this past year. This button I'm wearing tonight comes from the Baton Rouge Earth Day celebration, and it says, if the people lead, the leaders will follow. They're not going to do it for us. We're going to have to force them into doing it, the thing that they know that they should do. We also have a little quote back there from George Bush about volunteerism. We need everyone's support. You can't just be concerned about it. You can't just sit back and gripe about the air and the water. We enjoy the privilege of industry in our area, the financing that comes from them with our jobs, but they also enjoy the privilege of being here. They get numerous amounts of tax rate every year, which someone will discuss a little bit further into the program. And we just feel like that it's time for them not to just put money into the school system by sponsoring Dutchtown Elementary or a car bill, but for them to stand up and show that they're as concerned about the people that work for them as they should be by providing the kind of environment that we can live and thrive in. Now I'd like to introduce Amos Faybright. He's going to talk a little about a water survey and some of the results that we got from it this past year.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to see so many of you come out tonight. This is a serious problem out here, and it takes every individual to get together to solve these things. The Ascension Parish resident against toxic pollution alone cannot do it. We've been locked in a court now, have won 2 cases for close to 5 years. It still haven't been implemented on water and on air. These big companies have money, we have none. We go to the legal bodies in the court, we're thinking of other action to take to stop this mess. Like the people in Russia, they had been dissatisfied with the communist system for years and years. You see what happened here this past week. We gotta let the politician know we the boss in this election. And I hope you go there and vote every one of them that is in office out. Now, vote them out. They're not doing us any good in Baton Rouge. It's your time. It's your time right now. These people in these people's pocket, and they turn their head when you ask them to make some better laws to protect the citizens in these communities. A couple of months ago, we had Senator Cleo Field to introduce a bill up there, SB 44, asking them to let you, the citizen, decide if you want the industrial to pay that fair share of taxes. That's all we was asking. Then the committee, we didn't have no opposition, 100% voted out of the committee in favor of our resolution. But when it got on the floor, they wiped us out 24 to 12. What are they telling you? You don't have sense enough to vote on this, whether to tell the industrial to pay their fair share of tax, where you can use the tax for the school system. That's all we wanted it for the school system. We need it in the school system. They wiped us out. I was up there lobbying. Our senator voted for it. After I talked with him and asked him to vote for it, he voted for it. But he knew all the time that we was going to lose. But anyway, I decided to throw this in. Now I would like to hear some testimony on the water quality situation. President Jackson, take it over.
Gainesville Volunteer Fire Department, Mr. Richard Wilson. Mr. Richard Wilson. Robert Jackson.
Now, I'm Robert Jackson. Richard is not here, so kind of off guard a little bit. But anyway, the whole entire fire department is 100% against, wish we had a problem with water. We all knew this. And also pollution. So we 100% against this, and we want to do something about it. So we the whole community as a whole, we're backing whatever we can do about it. So I just want to say that we're 100% behind it. Thank you.
Amos Farah, debate on.
You know, the Ascension Parish resident against toxic pollution and the OCAW local union had a survey made back in May. 930 households in the Gosma Dutchtown area were surveyed. 240 households responded. That made 25% of the households. The results tell us that an overwhelming majority of respondents are dissatisfied with their drinking water and do not believe that it's safe to drink. Over 60% of the respondents drank bottled water. 80% of the respondents said that they were in favor of a municipal sewer and water system run by local elected officials and paid for by the industrial facilities in the area. Many respondents voted in comment. The comment tells us even more that the residents of this community are not at all happy with their water and want a new water system. And the air quality, and the air pollution, we take measures with the company's advisement that they should have some safeguard that we ought to know when there's some release in the air at Dutchtown. Phosgene gas was released on us at Geismar for 7 days, continuously. Our people was dying like flies with cancer out there 2 or 3 weeks after this was over. DEQ secretary then was not Paul Trombley, I forget the woman's name who it was, but she fined these people $66,000 where the law said they're supposed to be fined $25,000 a day for each day they release this in the air. Our organization sued DEQ and said this $66,000 was not enough to make these companies be responded to the law. They went back to court. The last time I heard, it went to $150,000. I was in an anti-aircraft artillery battalion in World War II. We had 90mm anti-aircraft guns. I was in charge of the decontaminated squad for chemical warfare. Phosgene is a deadly, long, irritating gas, just like mustard gas is. But yet, this was turned loose into the air for 7 days at Geismar. And the lawyer told us, said, well, if we'd have closed it down, we'd have lost $2 million. There again, monetary value over life. This is irresponsible. I know we have a resident been living at Geismar longer than I've been here. I've been at Geismar 66 years. We moved here when I was 2 years old, so I done told you my age. That poor woman was in her backyard this March past. Her name is Miss Virginia Brown. She lived on Spillman Road down there. We have high velocity of gusts of wind during March. She stooped down to feed her dog. When she rose up, a gush of air drove something in her face, and she said her face was burning like somebody had thrown a hot skillet full of grease in her face. That woman's face was charred black. I brought several people from the environmental sector to go there and talk with her and see her. But I hate to accuse anybody for wrongdoing, but even the doctor are not on our side. The lawyers either, not in this area. But anyway, I really felt sorry for her. She had to go to the doctor every other day to take treatment with her face. She said she went and looked into the glass. It was something bubbling on her face, and it was burning her so bad. I hope that these meetings we are conducting will have some result to give our people some relief here with the water and some relief with the air. We would like to have an air monitoring system here in Geismar, operated by the citizen here in Geismar, to know when is something wrong with the air so we could do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fairline. And Mrs. Sheila Blair. Following her, Miss Ida Sharper. Ophelia Lawson. Mrs. Ophelia Lawson here. Esther Lomas.
I'm Sheila Blair. I live a mile down the road, out toward St. Gabriel. We live exactly a mile from where, Union, Texas dumps all their gypsum or whatever it is. I've lived here in Dutchtown for 10 years, and I've bought bottled water for 10 years because I'm scared to drink my water. It turns my clothes yellow and leaves sediment in the glass, and I'd like to see something done about it.
Mrs. Sharper.
Hello, my name is Ida Strongboard, and I live about a half a mile down from here on Mossy Road. And the experience that I've had with our water is in agreement with what Sister Blair said. When I would wash my clothes, like my light colored clothes, there would be yellow spots in my light colored clothes. And so I blamed it on the washing machine and was not thinking about the plants. Just go to show you how we take things for granted. I never thought about it could have been the plants. I bought a new washing machine, and still the same problem exists. Later on, it grew to the point that the water was, like when we would take a bath or just drink water in a tub, it would be like dust or something in the tub. The water began to get like, it was black, dark, and it would leave particles in the tub that looked like coffee grounds. It would be just that color of coffee grounds. And so, like when I would draw water out of my tap, and if I would drink it out of the tap, I knew that I was taught in science that water was odorless and tasteless. But I told my husband, I said, this water has a taste to it. I said, it has a smell to it. I said, water is supposed to be odorless and tasteless. I said, it tastes like I think sewage should taste, but I never tasted sewage. And so he said, well, you never tasted sewage, how do you know? I said, well, I just think this. That's the way it smells. I know how sewage smells, but to me the water tasted bad, and it smelled bad. So then we drilled another well. We still had the same problem with the water spots. The water spots come out yellow on my clothes in my tub. When I have like a New Orleans blue color in my bathroom. And if the water is dripping just the least bit, it leaves yellow marks. It just stains up the blue tub. The white tub, it stains it up. The commode, it stains it up. No matter how much you clean it, it still stains it all up. So then we bored it well. After we drill another well, then I don't see the sand, but I'm still not trusting the water. I'm still not trusting it. But as for the air, when we would come outside, it's always like a odor in the air. It's like when I wash my car. Sometimes I washed my car, cleaned it, and left it sitting under the carport, not outside. It's under a cover. And when I would come outside, it's like grease spots. It's like little spots all over my car. And I told my husband, I said, I don't know what this is, but something is falling under the carport. So the air had to blow it under there for it to be there. So when you wipe it, it's like a smear. It looks like a grease smear. Then there was a time when my son came, and his car is burgundy. Our cars are like a gold. His car is burgundy. And they had little beads of, well, I thought it was water, but I don't know what it was. But it beaded up on my son's car, and it looked like it was bubbling up. It was going to take the paint off it. So my husband and I told him, said, you should go wash this off because it's probably going to eat the paint off your car. So he went and washed it off. But then there's another event where I came out one morning, came out of my house one morning, and it was like a nice warm day. And it's like when I came outside, the outside of my windows, the outside of my car, they were all fogged up. Like wintertime would fog up your glasses. This is how it was on the outside of my car, and to look back at my windows, they were all fogged up the same way. I said, something is going on out here. So there's a lot going on that we don't really know about, but we have an experience of it. We have an experience of something is happening, and something really needs to be done about it. So we need to work together to get it accomplished. And thank you.
Are there anyone in the audience who would like to testify against or for making a counter statement? Oh, Ben, well, I'm sorry, Ben.
My name is Ben Clark. I'm almost like everybody here got wells, their own wells. Okay? If you don't have a filter on it, you don't know what you're drinking if you're drinking your water. I got a filter on mine. I would like for you to look at the water and the filter and to tell me where you drink that water. Now that's about a month's filter out of the well. So you see what you will be drinking if you're drinking that. Anybody can take a look at it. I'll set it out and let everybody look at it and get ready to get your way out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else in the audience would like to make a statement? Yes, sir. State your name and who you are, please.
My name is Rama Mohanty. I'm a physics professor both at Southern University and at Louisiana State University. I also belong to the American Society of Environmental Sciences. I am here to do three things. One, to pay my respect to two of your presidents. One is former President Reagan. He says, trust but verify. So all the statements government gives, we should trust, but we must verify what they are saying. So I fully support the air monitoring system which you are trying to put up here. An American Society of Environmental Sciences will help you every way it can in this effort. And two, another of your former presidents, Jefferson, he says, when people lead, the leaders follow. And when people forget public affairs, leaders become wolves. They hunt on people, they don't help them. This is quote, unquote, President Jefferson. So, united the way you are, you'll be able to lead the leaders. And I join hands with you to be part of you in your efforts. Number three, the American Society of Environmental Sciences is planning a big conference on toxic waste and discharges, toxic emissions and discharges. I would very much like to see this conference held here instead of at LSU or at Southern. To this end, I would like to invite whoever you wish, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you, to the State Board of Directors meeting of this organization in the next meeting, so that we jointly invite them to hold their conference here. These are scientists and common people, everybody who is concerned about air, water, and food pollution. So I sincerely hope you will kindly join hands with me in inviting these people to hold their conference here, so that this place will be in limelight, particularly in the things that are happening here. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris, will Chris come forward? Chris Dunn?
My name is Chris Godey, and I am with the Louisiana Coalition for Tax Justice. My organization has done research on tax exemptions the industry receives and the effect that they have on citizens of the state of Louisiana. For many years, Louisiana has granted exemptions to industry in order to induce companies to locate in the state. The original purpose of the exemption was to create jobs and stimulate the economy of the state and of the parishes. However, during the 1980s, industry was allowed $2.6 billion worth of exemptions, almost $300 million per year. Money that could have been used for schools, roads, water and sewage treatment facilities, and social programs. In Ascension Parish alone, just in the 1980s, industry did not pay more than $100 million in property taxes. The Geismar area petrochemical plants received substantial tax breaks, and it's staggering. Tax breaks went to some of the worst polluters. In 1989 alone, the Geismar area companies released more than 93 million pounds of toxic chemicals into our environment. That comes out to about 1 pound. And I noticed to be a fact, all you have to do is go to the DEQ files of the Groundwater Division and you'll find out all this information for yourself. 90% of the tax exemptions went to companies that are already located in Louisiana. And only 10% created any new permanent jobs. In addition, some of the projects eligible for tax breaks were hazardous waste facilities, incinerators, etc. Should we, as citizens of the state of Louisiana, subsidize the destruction of hazardous waste? This serves as a disincentive to waste reduction and recycling. The Corporation for Enterprise Development a Washington, D.C. based economic development research firm, scored Louisiana the worst in the nation with straight F's on its annual business development report card. And one of the things that the president of the organization, Doug Ross, had to say was, no state generates significant jobs and income growth alone without making significant investments in the people, technology, capital, infrastructure, and amenities to produce growth. He said states try to shortcut the development process by buying their economic success directly, using tax giveaways to lure footloose companies. Giveaways take away the potential funds for states to invest in education, quality universities, financial resources, and infrastructure, including water treatment and sewage facilities. Now, the chemical plants may try to say that our taxes as citizens are too low. James Michael, Director of Research at Louisiana Tech College of Business, did a study, and he found that Louisianians paid $1.23 more in state and local taxes for every $100 of personal income than did the average American as recently as 1988. He said, we pay more in sales taxes, user fees, and other things like that. And when all those taxes are added up, we do pay more of our income to state and local taxes. Citizens already pay more than their fair share when it comes to taxes. Our sales taxes are the highest in the nation. Only big business can take advantage of the 10-year industrial tax exemption in the enterprise zone. It's like welfare for the wealthiest. Now, the bottom line is, industry receives lucrative tax exemptions which take much of the needed funds away from local governments. This stifles economic development and prohibits local governments from providing necessary services like sewage and water treatment. Industry also makes huge profits at the expense of our environment. So the bottom line is, citizens have paid dearly to have industry locate here, and citizens deserve a municipal water and sewage treatment system, and citizens have a right to have it paid for by industry. Thank you.
Ms. Donna Karen?
Okay, we've done some research on what it would cost to install and operate a water and sewer system. And if any of you noticed when we came through the back door, we have some fact sheets back there. This information is on there, so I'll go through it quickly. Individual hookup to water main and sewer collection pipes would run, and caution you, these are very low estimates that we've got from various engineers in the area. They are approximate amounts. They're approximately $7,000. The cost of piped water, if we pipe it in from St. Gabriel, who is in the process of being hooked up to Baton Rouge water at this present time, they're a possible source for us. Total cost of that piping from that area would be $3 to $5 million. This sounds like a lot of money to us. It is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to people that make a lot of money, like industry in this area. Cost of sewer collection and treatment, the system itself would be approximately $2 million, and the treatment system $900,000. The operation and maintenance $50,000 to $60,000. Total cost of installation at least $9 million. Total costs of maintenance, operation, and financial oversight. This would include someone with some type of accounting and business degree to oversee this operation, because there are water boards in our parish and our surrounding area that have had problems with this in the past, and we wouldn't want to have problems with it. We trust the people that we have associated with this committee and with the residents, but we need someone with some type of accounting degree, and this figure has been came upon by trying to include someone of that nature into it. These are very low estimates. According to the Baton Rouge Water Works, the best source of water is north of the East Baton Rouge Fault, which runs west-east on the south side of Baton Rouge. That's a long ways to get good water from for this area. Some of the sources of the money to install and maintain the system are as follows. The first one could be from the federal government, but usually there's no available money directly from the U.S. government, states in these types of situations. From the state of Louisiana, DEQ has a revolving loan fund of $12 million for such projects as we propose, but requests of at least $260 million are in DEQ's lap already. So there is not a very good chance of getting any money from the state. The last system, and the money's then paid back through increased sales taxes that all residents in the district would have to pay. So the thing that we're wanting to do now is to have industry pay for a feasibility study to show how much the system would cost and exactly how it would work and be implemented. To have a water and sewage system installed, the district needs to be set up first. To get the district set up, it's a lot simpler than you might think. There's a law on the state books that says that the police jury must decide to set up a sewer district when the residents of the proposed district can provide a petition with at least 25% of the signatures of the property taxpayers living in that district. That's a quarter of the taxpayers have to petition the police jury for the sewage district. It doesn't mean they have to put it in. It means they set up the lines for the district. To set up a water district, at least 25 property taxpayers have to sign a petition. 25 people, not 25%. And that then requires the police jury to set up a water district. We need to define the boundaries of this water and sewer district that we want them to set up. We were under the impression at first that they would define the boundaries, but we've since learned that we would have to define the boundaries for which we would want them to set the districts. To do this, we need petitions with signatures from every area of the community. We started out with Geismar and Dutchtown because we obviously are much closer to industry and have problems which are evident by the testimony we had here tonight. But in getting petitions for this meeting, we've heard from people in Donaldsonville, Prairieville, all over our area, which tells us that if we want it to be on a much broader scope, we need signatures from people in all these areas because it has to be 25% of the taxpayers of each area, each community, which would be Duplessis, Prairieville, Geismar, Dutchtown, Gonzales, any area that would want to be included in this, to be able to petition the police jury for that area to be part of the district. We'll have petitions going around and a sign-up sheet going around for an air monitoring committee, a water committee, and a committee to get people, to help get people to turn out for the meetings, because there will be another meeting in September. The more people we get involved, the more names we get on petitions, we can amend a petition to include any area that gets the signatures. So word of mouth, bulletins in grocery stores and daycares, mentioning it at church meetings, at school meetings, will get the people to turn out, get the signatures, and for all the politicians, and we have several articles clipped from the newspaper that tell us that a number of the police jurors and the other candidates that are running have made statements in the paper that they're pushing for a parish-wide water and sewage system, which would be wonderful. Right now, we're not worried about parish-wide. We're worried about right here. If they can do it parish-wide, that's great. So if we get the petitions signed and the signatures from the people in our communities, we're putting a lot of pressure on the politicians to put up or shut up. We've made a list of demands, and we would like to be able to present these directly to plant managers, and we understand that they have a meeting once a month of all the managers of the various plants in our area. And we have our next meeting Thursday, September the 26th, and I'm sure it'll probably be right here again. We'd like to be able to meet with them before that time to speak with them about these demands, and I'll go through them with you now. We want a new water and sewer system whose installation, maintenance, and operation are paid for by the Geismar area industrial facilities. Cost of operation will include the cost of an accountant to keep financial matters running smoothly. We want this to be democratically run and controlled by the community. In order to find out the specifics of the system, we request industry to pay for an independently done feasibility study. This feasibility study will probably cost $14,000 to $15,000. We request an invitation to meet with plant managers within a month before our next community meeting. And we also would like the companies to pay for testing of target wells in the community, because they're going to want to know what kind of problems. We can tell them all we want to what we think about our water, but they're going to want concrete facts about the problems that we have with our water. So we'd also like for them to pay for testing of wells in the community area. I'll now turn this over to Mr. Hubert Ormond, our local TV celebrity, if anybody watched the news this afternoon, and he's going to talk a little bit about the air monitor system.
That's a very good point. Would you care to address that?
In reality, there are some plans that really are spending a lot of money on improve the environment. It's just like anything else. There are a few not doing anything. Of course, I understand your question. Instead of paying for the advertisement to do something else weird, I can't even answer that question. There are several plants that I know plant managers spending. I look at their record. They're doing a pretty good job of working with the environment. 10 years ago, they were doing nothing that would really help to the environment. There's no laws, and they were doing everything what they wanted to do. So finally, we organized in other environment groups across the country, across the state, start hollering, and now we're being heard. And we just didn't organize to be radicals. We just want good government, protect our health. That's the only reason. I'm sorry I didn't answer your question.
By the way, Ms. Donna, I'm just as nervous now as I was when I was interviewed by Marseille Gillespie. I want to speak a little bit about air quality. We all know we have an air problem, pollution. No later than this afternoon, I look out my back door and you see the blue smoke almost hide the trees. We don't know what that is. In fact, I don't. But it's something that's not normally there. If you look at this diagram right under the air conditioning duct, that's what they call a pollution plume, I assume. That stuff goes up, the wind catches it and distributes it over us, and it affects our trees, our gardens, our groundwater supply, and what have you. They say that the wind blows from the plants in our general direction 25 to 30% of the time. I think it's more than that, because we have plants from St. Gabriel to St. James Parish, and we're about midpoint between the 2 points. wind during the summertime is either southwest, south, or southeast. So that puts us, in my estimation, don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert. In my estimation, that puts us getting about 75%. I myself live as the crow flies from the plant's about a mile. And I have to take medication, as I said on TV, twice a day. When I leave the area, I don't have to take it. So something is definitely in the air. I would like to ask anyone in the audience now who has a problem with the air to come up and speak.
Hello, I'm Mickey Debate, and I'm a member of the All Chemical and Atomic Workers International Union, and I live in the Geismar area. I live right down Highway 74, and I was mowing my grass one morning last spring, and of course, I must have been half asleep, just mowing the grass, and I happened to look up in the trees, and all my trees were dead. All the leaves had dropped out of them, and I just couldn't believe it. I said, something went wrong. Yeah, I said, here I am cutting grass, the trees is all out, but the leaves is all gone. I don't know what happened to them. I never did find out what happened to them. But something happened, and they never did come back out like they should. Some of them came back out halfway, but a lot of the limbs rotted out and dropped on the ground, and I cleaned them up. Lots of times on the weekends, especially, and at night, I think they have these, what they call these midnight polluters out there, because we can smell the chemicals in the air, and on the weekends, you got this blue haze all over the community. I know everybody's familiar with it, and that's not foam. That's some type of chemical mixing with the air and causing that blue haze. And it's something that they could correct. The chemical industry could correct that, and they could probably put on a few more people by doing it, and it wouldn't cost them a whole lot more money. But they are saving a little bit of money when they're putting it to the air. But they're not saving us, and whenever they're doing that, they're not being good neighbors. And they're supposed to be good neighbors, so maybe we need to kind of urge them to be good neighbors. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience will speak against on water or air pollution? Mr. Wilson?
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. I'm James Wilson, candidate for police jury for District 3 right here in Stanton Parish. I realize the serious problem. To preserve our land, water, and air, I would make myself available, become a part of any activities that would make our planet a cleaner and better place to live. Thank you very much.
Mr. Young?
Most of you know me. My name is David Young. I've been active in this community for about 20 years now. And in my official role as a consultant to the Ascension Parish Police Bureau, I would just like to give you a couple of suggestions and give you my thoughts. Our common commend you on the research on the water system. The jury, as you know, most of you read, I heard allusions to it tonight, asked that we look into a parish-wide water system for the parish. Well, it's just like when I started a year ago, we went to qualify for economic development funds, and I found out we couldn't even apply for them because we had not done, 20 years ago what it took to do to apply for the funds. So that's where we find ourselves in a lot of different capacities, and I think water and sewer are among those. We have over 300 private water systems in Ascension Parish compared to, say, 25 in Hipperville and 75 in the next neighboring parish. So we have a huge consolidation problem ahead of us. But one thing that I think that you can do, and I think you got the right idea, is keep pressure on local government. Local government is the last best defense that you have, and I think that you're starting to use it, and I think that's good. Because the state does issue these exemptions, but the plants do go to the Ascension Parish Police Bureau on many, many occasions for many things, including enterprise zones, one thing and another. So use your local government. And the second thing is, if you're serious about a water district for this area, what I think long term, even if the plants agree to fund it, which would be great, you're still going to have long-term maintenance. Any kind of a grant that you get or anything, you're going to have to set up your own water system, monitor it, and set up rates which are federally acceptable so that each one of you that are participating in the water program and get water are going to have to pay a monthly water bill like everybody who gets water does. So one thing you can do, the Farmers Home Administration, they have funds available for private water systems. If you get your feasibility study and it is feasible, you can go to the local government and ask them to borrow the money for you. And the federal government will put the money, if it's feasible, into the system, build the system, and you pay the money back with your monthly water rates for the next 30 or 40 years. That's doable. The second thing I want to say is that Ascension Parish is now qualified for the Wellhead Protection Program. The DEQ, some of you may be familiar with it, but water quality is a concern, I think, all over the country. And in looking for federal grants for the jury, I found a new program called the Wellhead Protection Program. They put $1.5 million in it last year, and it was so successful that they put $2.5 million in it this year. Ascension Parish is being tested as part of this Wellhead Protection Program, so I would urge you, if you get a committee together, to meet with, and I'll be happy to meet with the committee and go to DEQ and find out what those results are. I think they're going to try to test to see whether or not the injection, some of the concerns that we're seeing here today, 20 years later. Who knows? Only accurate data is going to tell us whether or not they can or not. But that's being done, and the second thing is that only Ascension Parish and 3 other parishes this year were among the Louisiana communities eligible for $2.5 million. So we again qualified, but we had no real input. If this group had been meeting or have a committee together, we can qualify, I think, for an organizational wellhead protection program of up to, I'd say, $100,000 to $200,000 with no problem for next year. So if there's anything I can do in that capacity, Eddie, to meet with the group and to help you qualify for those federal funds, because they are available, and that's exactly what they're for. They're out there, and I would be more than happy to help. And that's what I like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edward. Okay, about 15 minutes over our time. When the meeting gets over an hour and a half, sometimes people get fatigued and they're ready to go home. So, if you have a number 5, you just won a bottle of water. Number 5 on the paper, you have it? Anyone have that number? 5. You're on the agenda. Look at your agenda, number 5. Okay, we have a winner, Miss Ida Shumpert, no? Okay. Number 3, the next number is number 3. Number 3. Okay. Good. Number 2. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly appreciate you coming out tonight. And I'd like to apologize to you. I just lost my composure, very emotional on this topic. The guys in the community, the Dutchtown community, are real hard-working people. We are really concerned the quality of life here, that we must receive good water and good air. It's just that simple. God gave us that. We feel that at this time, to wind up, we'll let Mr. Stephen and I grew up on my home plantation. I know you don't know where that is. Well, old plants that over out in Garden where we grew up. We're familiar with the area. Mr. Arnold, come on there, Coach Stephen.
Last week, three of us, Mr. Mickey today, Ben Clark, and myself, and Mr. Tom Essenberg, we met with Mr. Bob Hanna from DEQ concerning air monitors. And he was very receptive of the idea of working with us in securing monitors for residential areas. Presently, we have two monitors. You have one on Highway 75, the back fence next to the levee at the plant area. We have one in the hospital in Carville. We have nothing this side of the plants where we all live. And that's one of our demands, and they said and by the way, the one at the plants operates 10-hour period per week. So it's on a monitor 10 hours each week. And he stated that they have many different types of monitors. He's not really concerned about putting it in my front yard or your front yard or your backyard. They want an area that is free of any trees, obstructions, and what have you. That they can set it out there. It involves some legal work, and because they would have to build a building and it would have to be defended against vandals and what have you. And monitored periodically, I'd say daily. And, but they are all willing to work with us on this. And he did state also that he or someone from DEQ, from our quality, would be willing to come to our next big meeting. By the way, we'll be holding our next big meeting, which is this one, and we do hope we have a bigger turnout on September the 5th at 7 p.m. at the Geismar Fire Department. I'm sorry, this is not the meeting. This is the regular meeting, and you're all welcome to come at the regular meeting. We need to form committees. We need people to do legwork and everything. We need help, really help. So that's September 5th at 7 p.m. at the Geismar Fire Department. This meeting will be to decide the boundaries of the water and sewer district.
On September the 27th, Friday at 6 p.m. at this school, a hazard waste injection well, and we continue to try to inject waste in the ground.
When Mr. Jackson called me a few minutes ago and said, hey, I want you to do the wrap-up, he specifically told me, I do not want you to announce that you're a candidate for the Central Fire Department jury in District 3. And I'm going to be very, very obedient. I'm not going to make the statement. I know water contamination and air pollution we all must agree, after listening to all of the testimony and all of the statements tonight, that those two are presenting us a serious problem in Ascension Parish. But people, I want to tell you a problem just as serious, if not more serious, is the lack of cooperation and effective leadership on our public officials. They have given us taxation without representation. They have given us a promissory note saying that the funds are inadequate and insufficient. But I don't believe that the Bank of Taxation and Representation is out of business. We have to agree that we are confronted with a serious problem because water and air are sources of life. In other words, without water, healthy water that is, without air, good air that is, then human life is impossible. We have to agree. Ahead of us tonight, there are many great challenges, but I have you to know that the rewards for challenging the challenges are even greater. We must not permit ourselves to construct an atmosphere of despair and hopelessness. We must not develop a fear to have a confrontation or encounter or to attack despair. We must remember that America was not built by the lollipop man or the pushover, a man that believed anything goes. But this country was built by great men, men that were courageous, men that were brave, men that believe a winner will never quit and a quitter will never win. I'm saying to you tonight, as the road gets rough and the going is tough, we're going to stop and we're going to pick up the shovel of determination. We're going to dig into the mountain of despair. We're going to hew out the rock of hope. And I'll say tonight with the high level of confidence, that rock is determination and drive. We are going to make Ascension Parish a better place to live for ourselves, for our children, and for those that are going to come behind us. I think we rightfully deserve it. I'm sure this committee is appreciative. The number that turned out here tonight, I cannot say too much about it. I am very happy. I'm going home with a new hope and a new determination because I know that we have people in Ascension Parish that cares. My last statement, if we don't care about Ascension Parish, if we aren't concerned about Ascension Parish, if we aren't concerned about the children in our community, in our neighborhood, then I want someone to tell me who should be concerned. Remember, a team of horses that pulls in the same direction moves the wagon. A team of horses that pull in an opposite direction pull the wagon apart. We're going to pull this wagon in the right direction. We're going to do something about air pollution. We're going to do something about water contamination. And I say, if I tell you there's cheese on the moon, you can go up there with your crackers. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just remind you one more time, we will have a meeting September the 5th at the Gosling Volunteer Fire Department at 7 o'clock to form committees to get these signatures for petitions to set up the water and sewage district. And then this next big community meeting will be September the 27th. It's on a Friday at 6 o'clock, and we will have handbills and posters everywhere. Thank you so much for coming out. Next time when you come, bring your next door neighbor. Thank you.
Capital utilities.
Capital utilities that complain so much about their signatures in that area.